jumped to a conclusion and then found you were wrong? Oh yeah, how did you feel about that? Our speaker is going to share a story about what can happen when we jump to conclusions. A story by John Waddington Feather, Joe and the Dog Who Could Speak. Our speaker is a member of the Valparaiso Toastmaster Club. He's the club treasurer, the money guy, I like that. And he's earned several awards. He's earned the Advanced Leader Bronze and the Advanced Communicator Gold. He's been a Toastmaster for 10 years. Please give a hearty welcome to Ed Witte. Look before you leap. Look before you leap, Ed Witte.
All right.
So in Chanel's introduction, we heard that she was associated with the Girl Scouts. I also worked with the Scouts, the Boy Scouts at my church in Valparaiso. And every January we have an event called the Klondike Derby. And it's to sort of simulate the Klondike Gold Rush days back in the late 1890s, early 1900s. And this story is set in that time frame. 49 Joe once told a tale that kept him in whiskey a week. Concerning a barman he took for a ride by selling a dog that could speak. Dawson was where he sold him the pass, in a bar that's no more, glad to say, because that bar owner treated those gold miners bad when they brought in their gold dust for pay. Shaky Hand Pete was that barkeeper's name, because he shook like a leaf as he poured out the sour-nosed dust that they paid him for booze after months in the bush, panning gold. He had treated old Joe pretty bad once or twice when he'd gone there to cash in his dust, and Joe had been figuring how he'd make it quits and win back the money he'd lost. It came to him sudden one day in a show where he'd gone for a music hall tour. A ventriloquist throwing his voice from a doll, a trick Joey vowed he would learn. He paid the man handsome to teach him this trade, and Joe learned a lesson so well that he could throw out his voice from any darn place. He could throw it from heaven to...
All right, then.
After Joe gotten smart at that voice-throwing trick, he went out and he bought him a dog. A cross-eyed blue mongrel as loony as Len that grinned ear to ear like a hog. He took him along to Shaky Hand Pete's and asked for a plate full of stew. He ordered a drink, and as Pete passed him by, that dog hollered, "Please make that too." Pete's ears nearly fell clean off of his head. He stopped in his tracks like a log. He looked all around and then said to Joe, "Was that you that spoke then, or your dog?" "'Twas me," said the dog. "I asked for a drink. Most civil, like all dogs well bred." Pete nearly dropped those glasses he held in his hands as his eyes popped out from his head. Joe went on eating like nothing was wrong while his mongrel kept jawing away. "Please don't stand there staring. It's rude, my good man. Please bring me my drink and I'll pay." "Say, Joe," said the barman, who spoke kind of slow, "that critter is yours, I believe." Joe threw him a glance and said, "Sure, that dog's mine," then wiped his mouth clean on his sleeve. That barman laid out 2 full glasses of beer, one for the dog and one for Joe, before shooting off to tell his wife the way to make plenty of dough, because she was the brains of that sleazy saloon. She was greedy and mean. She was near. She figured how they'd make their fortunes at once with a dog that could talk and drink beer. As soon as he'd gone, Joey drank the dog's beer. It went down in one cool and neat. He swallowed that pint without spilling a drop, then set the glass back at his feet. Well, Pete and the missus came in on the trot after drawing some fast talk outside. They figured if Joe would sell them that dog, they could take the whole world in their stride. With that dog in the bar, we could pull in more folks than Tombstone and Prescott combined. You'd have to spill gold dust for more than a year what he could make in one night, she opined. Well, Pete and the missus looked at the dog with that empty beer glass standing near. "Your dog sure is thirsty," the barman observed. Said the mongrel, "'Tis mighty fine beer." Pete and the missus stared in surprise, but she asked him a question or two, to which the old hound dog gave such slick replies, she gave him a free plate of stew. "You're kind," said the old dog, "but not too much salt, for it tends to give old dogs a thirst. It's a long, long way back to 49 State, and I'd have to keep stopping or burst." Well, that did it. She offered Joe $500. But he said there's no way he could part with a dog he could talk to out in the wild that had grown rather near to his heart. But he said he'd owed money for grub down at Mac's where he'd whiskeys chalked up by the score. If only she'd double her offer, Joe said. She snapped, "Done! Not a half a cent more." At this, the old hound dog howled out aloud and said, "Joe, how could you do that? To sell out your partner for $1,000 at barely the drop of the hat." "Sorry," said Joe, "but you see I'm flat broke. I owe money all over town. And a good friend is one who will help a guy out when his luck's running low and way down." "Oh, I see," said the old dog. "If you've made up your mind on what you've decided to do." "Oh, I'm sorry," said Joe, "but you see how it is. I've no choice but to let them buy you." "If that is the case," the mongrel replied as he watched Joey pocket the bid, "I swear that I'll never again speak a word." And you know, that old dog never did.